Hey everyone! Thank you for joining us for our awesome School Age Activities workshop. I'm Jacqueline Kennedy from Outside the Box Educator Workshops. If you're looking for more workshops, please consider checking out our website at www.outsidetheboxworkshops.ca. Today we're going to be talking about activities for school-age children ages 6 to 12. They're going to be activities that are really easy and simple to implement in your space. We're going to show you some indoor and outdoor activities, options for every learning style, and some real-life examples. Here's a quick overview of things we're going to be talking about today. There are a lot of really cool activities during this workshop, so if you'd like to take notes, feel free to do so. Let's get started by talking about building opportunities. Something I love to implement in my program are sturdy plastic cups. If you can collect a large number of cups, I find that your students can build a lot of really amazing things like forts, pyramids, and towers. One thing I love about building with cups is the trial and error that comes with it. Anytime the children build a pyramid, they really have to think about how they're building it because the slightest touch and the pyramid will come crashing down. I love the fact that the students in my program had to share the materials, work together, and communicate to create all the things that you can see in these pictures. If you're wondering where you can find these cups, you can find them at most party stores and sometimes dollar stores as well. Now let's move on to the block area. I noticed that my school agers weren't really using the block area as much as they used to, so I decided to add something new. I took a toy steering wheel and I added it into the block area. I noticed that it changed the play and the students immediately started creating new things. In this photo, you can see a group of boys have used the blocks to create a car that also goes on water, has wings, and a force field. How cool is that? If you're noticing a lack of interest in one of the areas of your classroom, consider adding a new material to see what will happen next. Now let's talk about loose parts. I love adding loose parts into my building area. If you're looking for something cool to add to your building area, consider things like DVD cases, cardboard from Bath & Body Works, and subway tiles. I was always amazed to see what creations the children came up with using loose parts. In the first photo, the students had made a road around mountains. In the third photo, the students had created a pirate ship. I love the fact that every day the children build something new with these materials, and they expand on their play every time that you add something new. My students were really interested in superhero play. I decided to bring in some felt superheroes that I had ordered on Etsy. We added them into the block area, and the students decided to make booby traps for bad guys. I'm pretty sure they were just looking for an excuse to say boobies, but let's not get into that. You can see that they've used a plank and a block to hold it up on an angle to trap the bad guys. I love the fact that they have their little house for their puppets with a working trap in case the bad guys break in. I really enjoy adding recycled materials into the building area as well. We were lucky enough to ask the parents of our students to make donations, and we received things such as tiles, cabinet door handles, hardwood floor planks, and leftover wood scraps. I noticed one of my school-agers began to build with the materials shown in this photo. I sat down with him and chatted with him about what he was building. He told me that the cabinet handles reminded him of train beds. I came to find out that he and his dad had often gone on trips on the train. In the second photo, you can see what his creation looked like when it was finished. I love all the intricate detail that he added to this. He added a lot of detail and different layers, and it was just beautiful. When he was done, I asked him what he had made, and he said, "I don't know, but it's pretty cool." If you're looking for some cool materials to add to your outdoor yard, consider things like PVC pipes, log slices, and wood slices. During this activity, the students decided to make a giant marble run. I was able to find some large marbles and large rubber balls, and they were able to use those for their marble run. There was a lot of creative thinking and trial and error that went into this. They had to find ways to keep the pipes steady on top of the wood. They needed to find a way to make the marble turn, and they needed to find the right height in order to get the marble to go fast enough down the pipes. It was really interesting to see all of the problem solving that happened in the students' conversations. And if their design wasn't working, they had to start over and figure out why. I noticed that students would trade materials and try different things in order to get their design to work the best. The best part about this is they were engaged for hours. Now let's move on to literacy activities. Creating a custom crossword is a great way to build a connection with your students. This is something that you're going to have to prepare ahead of time. Here's how it works. You create a crossword where the clues involve all of the students in your program. The clues can be inside jokes, one-on-one experiences, or questions about you as the educator. The great thing about this activity is that the students have to go and get to know one another in order to solve all of the clues. These are really easy to make just by using some graph paper. Here are some examples to get you started. What is David's dog's name? What color are John's eyes? What instrument does Anna play? What is Lindsay's least favorite food? What is Marco's favorite color? What sports does Luke play on the weekend? What is Mary's secret talent? What is Miss Jacqueline's favorite sport? What is Amanda's favorite Taylor Swift song? Where did Emmanuel go over the March break? Whose birthday is January 5th? I noticed that after we completed this crossword, the students really wanted to make their own. So I provided them with graph paper and guided them on how to create one. And by the end of the week, we had lots of different crosswords floating around in our classroom with very interesting questions and clues. The next game we're going to talk about is called Sparkle. Sparkle is a game that you're going to want to play with older school-agers. Here's how it works. You're going to want at least 5 children or more to play this game. As the educator, you're going to want to prepare a list of spelling words before the game starts. Try to come up with words that are very easy, moderate, and then hard. Have the students sit in a circle. The educator will state a word, and one at a time, the children in the circle will spell the word one letter at a time. If the last person in the sequence believes that the word was spelled correctly, they will say sparkle. If they believe that it was spelled incorrectly, they'll make a buzzer sound. Whoever said the wrong letter will be eliminated. Here's an example. The educator will say table. The first child will say T. The second child will say A. The third child will say B. The fourth child will say L. The fifth child will say E. And if the last child believes that it's correct, they will say sparkle. This is a really great rainy day activity. The students really enjoyed having tournaments to decide who was the best at spelling in our group. The next game we're going to talk about is called Why? Because. This is a really funny game that you can play with your school age group. All you need for this game are slips of paper that have the word why written on them and separate slips of paper that have the word because written on them. Give some of your students the pieces of paper that say why, and some of your students the pieces of paper that say because. Encourage the students with a why paper to create a totally random why question. The students that have a because paper will create a totally random answer statement. The idea here is that none of the groups know what the other group is writing. Collect all the why papers and place them in one pile, and collect all the because papers and place them in a separate pile. The educator will choose one why statement and read it out loud, followed by a random because answer statement and read that out loud. The idea is that at the end of this, the children will laugh hysterically because the answers make no sense and have nothing to do with the question. If you find your students are having a hard time coming up with random why questions, here are some examples. Why do dogs bark? Why am I the tallest kid in the class? Why is math so hard? Why do I have to do homework? Why can't I play video games all day? Why is it raining? Why is ice cream so yummy? Why do I have to go to school? Why can't I fly? If you're finding your students are having a hard time with because statements, here are some examples. Because I hate eating vegetables. Because it's Monday. Because dinosaurs are extinct. Because you're grounded. Because cheetahs are so fast. Because soccer is the best sport ever. Because I am scared of the dark. Because I said so. Because you need money to buy things. As your students catch on to this game, they're going to become more clever with their questions and more hilarious with their answers. This is a game your students are going to want to play all day, every day. Now it's time for some math games. Here's a really fun math game, and all you're going to need is a piece of paper and a marker. One of your students is going to sit in a chair facing the rest of the audience. Someone from the audience is going to write a number between 1 and 500. The student at the front is going to hold that piece of paper above their head without looking at the number. The student at the front is going to start the game by just guessing any random number between 1 and 500. The audience will give clues by saying higher or lower to the number that they have just stated. Let's see how many guesses it takes for them to guess the correct number. You can make this game more difficult by changing the range of numbers between 1 and 1,000. You can expand on this game by seeing which student can guess the correct number in the least amount of guesses. If your students are looking for a challenge, I recommend trying an extreme dot to dot. You can purchase these booklets from Scholar's Choice. Some of the puzzles have up to 1,000 dots, so it takes a long time to complete. I used to set these out for the students and see who could finish the puzzle the fastest and guess the picture. The first time I did this, it was so quiet in the room that you could hear a pin drop. The students were concentrating so hard and trying to find the next number in the sequence. Now let's talk about STEM challenges. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Some great ideas for STEM challenges are design and build a catapult, build a boat that floats, design a paper bridge, build an egg drop device, build a 100 marshmallow tower, build a park, design a marble run or a paper roller coaster, set up a balloon rocket, or create a Rube Goldberg machine. This STEM activity was so much fun and didn't require a lot of materials. We had purchased eggs at the dollar store around Easter time and used leftover Play-Doh. The STEM challenge was who can create the tallest egg tower. I set the children up into groups and observed how they built. I thought it was really interesting because some students noticed that the eggs were too top-heavy, and so they decided to stack them a different way. Some of them decided to build a tower with 4 sections. Some of them decided to put the eggs on their side because they were more balanced. Some of the students even opened up the eggs and noticed that they would stack better this way. It was awesome to see creative thinking and problem solving. Here's another STEM challenge that we did. I purchased items from the dollar store like foam sheets, styrofoam trays, popsicle sticks, and paper cups. The challenge was to create a boat that floats. We did this in the spring when our schoolyard had a massive puddle that no one was allowed to play in. I decided that it would be more productive to have them build a boat that they could float in the puddle instead. We did this over several days because the students noticed that some of their designs would sink and they would want to come back and create a new design. If you have students that are obsessed with cars and ramps, try doing a ramp STEM challenge. The challenge here was to build a ramp that could allow the car to travel down and make it to the other end of the carpet. For this, we used some thick cardboard inserts, some leftover hardwood floor planks, and some blocks. In the second photo, you can see one of our students actually tied a string around the car to assist it to the other side of the carpet. Let's move on to some gym games. Scooter car races has been one of my students' most favorite activities. For this, you're going to need scooters, as shown in the photo, some gym mats, hula hoops, and bean bags. If you don't have bean bags, you can use any other gym material like balls or birdies or bowling pins. Divide your students into groups of 2. Give each group of 2 at least 2 scooters and 1 gym mat. They have to build a car, putting the gym mat on top of the scooters. At one end of the gym, you're going to place a hula hoop with some objects inside for each team. The teams have to start at the opposite end of the gym, pushing each other towards the hula hoops filled with items, picking up one item at a time, and pushing each other back on the cars. Something that usually happens during this game is that the scooters will move and the car won't work anymore. The teams are reminded that they have to work together to rebuild their car. If you have a student that didn't want to play, you could assign them to be the mechanic in the game, and their job would be to fix the scooter cars if they broke down. The goal of this game is to see which team can collect the items and bring them back to their side the fastest. Make sure that the hula hoops are far away from the wall to prevent crashing. Just make sure you discuss safety rules and speed limits. Our next game is called Would You Rather. The students will line up single file facing you on the middle line of the gym. You're going to give them 2 options. Option number 1, you will point to the left side of the gym, and option number 2, you will point to the right side of the gym. This is a great non-competitive game if you find that your students have a hard time with competition. Give your students 2 options, for example, freezies or popsicles. If they prefer freezies, they will run to the left side of the gym, and if they prefer popsicles, they will run to the right side of the gym. Some other fun examples are dogs or cats, fruits or vegetables, day or night, bike or rollerblades, breakfast or dinner, summer or winter, mustard or ketchup, singing or dancing, red or blue. A funny thing that I've noticed is that if the children don't know how to answer, or they don't know which one they prefer, they tend to lie in the middle of the gym with half their body on the left and half their body on the right. Now let's talk science. The first activity that we're going to talk about is very, very simple and very, very engaging. All you're going to need for this activity are some clear plastic cups, dried out markers, and water. If you have any science tools like eyedroppers, that would be a huge bonus. I like to set up this activity by providing half-filled cups of water on the table and then a bowl of dried out markers. I encourage the students to mix the colors to create new colors. It's really amazing to see how many shades you can get by mixing different colors with one another. By the end of this activity, after mixing and mixing and mixing, all of our water was brown. I thought the activity would be over, but one of our students decided to go and get the teapot set and create a coffee shop, using the brown water as the coffee. So as we created our coffee shop, the students made signs, they created paper money, and menus. I love the fact that simple brown water created such a great extension activity for dramatic play. Welcome to the Dairy Challenge. This is such a fun science activity to do with your school age group. All you'll need for this activity are 2 mason jars with lids, filled halfway up with heavy whipping cream. Divide your group into 2 groups. My group at the time decided to do boys versus girls. The challenge here is to have each team shake the mason jar until they make butter. The rules are everyone has to have a turn shaking, and the first team to create butter wins. We were lucky enough to use the butter on our popcorn for snack the next day. It's time to learn about lava lamps. What you will need for this science experiment are clear containers, which can be glass or plastic, Alka-Seltzer tablets, which you can buy at any drugstore, vegetable oil, food coloring, and water. First, fill the container 1/4 with water and 3/4 with vegetable oil. The students can then add 10 drops of food coloring and wait for the food coloring to go down to the bottom of the jar. When you're ready for the lava lamp effects, add Alka-Seltzer tablets. I recommend giving each student half an Alka-Seltzer tablet at one time. It's time to jump into sensory play. Sometimes we forget how important sensory play is for school-age children. We often think that they are too old to enjoy sensory play, but it's actually very beneficial for them. They often don't get a lot of sensory experiences during the school day, so offering this in your before or after school program is really essential. The first time I ever worked in a school-age program, I noticed that the sensory bin was the most popular item in the room. If you don't have any sensory bins in your program right now, give them a try. If you're looking for an ooey gooey substance to add to your sensory bin, try purchasing Jelly Bath. You can find this on Amazon. The cool thing about this product is it's a powder that you add to water and it turns the water into jelly. You don't need much. 1 teaspoon of the powder is enough to make the sensory bin that you see on the left. The second coolest part about this product is there is another powder included in the kit that when added to the jelly turns it back into water. I recommend having a towel or some sort of carpet underneath the sensory bin as it will be slippery if the jelly gets onto the floor. The product is non-toxic and biodegradable. I really love using the green jelly for special occasions like Halloween, for witch slime. They have a few different versions of this product, including slime and fake snow. Be sure to put your sensory bin close to a sink because it's going to get messy. Another very popular activity for sensory play is colored vinegar and baking soda experiments. For this you will need some clear plastic cups, some vinegar, some baking soda, some trays, and some food coloring. All I did for this activity was simply set out trays of baking soda for the students to explore, along with some colored vinegar. One way to expand on this activity is to fill 1 cup with water and food coloring, but don't tell your students. As they explore the baking soda reactions, see if anyone notices that a certain color of vinegar didn't react, and see if they can figure out why. Play-Doh is another favorite to have in a school-age program, although it can be difficult if you don't have a stove to make fresh Play-Doh every week. I thought it would be helpful to share some no-cook Play-Doh options during this workshop. If you'd like to make conditioner dough, all you need is cornstarch and hair conditioner. Combine the conditioner and the cornstarch until it becomes dough. It's going to be a very soft dough and it's going to smell amazing. You don't need to cook it. All you do is mix those 2 ingredients together. If you're allowed to use food in your program, consider making no-cook edible dough. All you're going to need for this dough is cornstarch and vanilla pudding. Mix the 2 ingredients together in a bowl until you form a dough. It'll feel like really soft Play-Doh and it'll smell incredible. If you're looking for some really easy ways to implement sensory bins into your program, this section is for you. A super simple sensory bin that's highly engaging is snow with dried out markers. I love adding ice cream scoops and ice cream bowls to see what the students will create with them. It usually ends up being some form of dramatic play. They might make an ice cream shop or a smoothie shop and start selling smoothies to their friends around the room. The best part about this activity is there's no staining because all the markers are washable. If you're not able to do super messy sensory bins, try doing a simple pom-pom bin. I like to add ice cream scoops, popsicle molds, measuring spoons, and tongs. In this photo, the students actually turned it into a berry stand. They used the CD as the menu, and they sorted all the pom-poms into various colors. Some were blueberries, some were blackberries, and some were strawberries. Some of the students actually went to the art area to create signs and play money to use in this activity. Here is a list of some other great sensory bin fillers: aquarium gravel, buttons, ribbon pieces, silk flower petals, corks, bath salts, goop, coins or poker chips, shaving cream, feathers, kinetic sand, sand and shaving cream, hair gel, gems, wood shavings, wood stove pellets, Lego, and shredded paper. Now let's get started with some social emotional activities. School-agers love playing Guess the Song. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to visit YouTube and search for the group called Twinkle Twinkle Little Rock Star. Find relevant songs that your students might recognize. Play the song without allowing the students to see the title. Have the student guess the song. The songs are all in lullaby form, which makes this really challenging. You can find a lot of popular songs from popular artists in lullaby form, so they should be songs that your students will recognize. Have you ever tried Story in a Bag? This is a really simple activity that ends with a lot of laughter. Here's what you're going to do. Fill a bag with random objects and toys. Have your students sit in a circle. The person starting the game will reach into the bag and pull out one item. They will begin the story by saying something like "Once upon a time," and then incorporating a story based on the item that they drew from the bag. When they're ready to move on, they're going to say, and then they're going to pass the bag over to the next person. The next person will pick a new item out of the bag and continue the story, incorporating that new item into the story. Continue doing this until you arrive at the last person in the circle. The job of the last person is to find a fun way to end the story. I found that the school-agers requested to play this game over and over. They found new and interesting ways to incorporate the items into new stories, and we all had a lot of laughs. Let's move on to outdoor games. The game that I'm going to talk about next is called Pegs. For this game, you're going to need a lot of clothespins. Each child is going to pin a few clothespins to the back of their shirts. When you say go, the children will run around and try to take off the pegs off of others' backs. When they have successfully done this, they will put the clothes peg on the front of their shirt. Clothes pegs on the front are not allowed to be taken. The person with the most pegs collected at the end is the winner. Because there is a lot of running in this game, I recommend having a spot for timeout or have a timer set so the game doesn't run too long. If you're looking for some outdoor yard games, this one is awesome. It's called Cube. For this game, you're going to need 5 cubes for each team, 4 corner markers, 1 king, and 6 clubs. Each team stands on the opposite side of the cubes. The children throw the clubs and try to knock down the cubes one by one, without knocking down the king. Once all the cubes on the opposite side are knocked down, then your job is to knock down the king. Whichever team does that successfully first wins. There are a lot of great videos on how to play this game on YouTube. If you're not able to purchase a cube set, you could use other materials. Bowling pins, milk cartons, sticks, wooden blocks. You can definitely get creative. If you're looking to add something fun to your outdoor space during winter, consider some of these activities. Make your own colored ice by mixing paint and water and letting it freeze. Bring different buckets outside to create snow castles. Even simply adding some colored water into the snow and giving the children some baking materials sparks a lot of interest. Anytime I brought baking materials outdoors, I found that the school-agers created a whole range of different activities. They were selling muffins, they were making soup, they were making wedding cakes, they were making potions. The possibilities are endless. Take those same baking materials that you used in the snow and add them to the sandbox. Look at all the birthday cakes that they've made. They also created a store where they sold baked goods. And who doesn't like a mud pie? School-agers often don't have these kinds of materials when they get to play outside at recess. So anytime you can add these into your program, you'll see that the children really enjoy using them. Did someone say treasure hunt? How about setting up a painted rock treasure hunt? First, you're going to collect rocks and have your students paint them in unique ways. Once they're dry, you're going to apply Mod Podge to weatherproof the rocks. The next day, hide the rocks in your outdoor space prior to your students coming to the program. Then go ahead and send them on their treasure hunt. Now let's move on to art activities. Salt and watercolor paintings. To do this activity, take a sheet of white cardstock and create a design with glue. Then sprinkle salt on top of the glue. Once the glue is dry, use eyedroppers with watercolor paint or food coloring to add color into the salt. The water creates a reaction with the salt and you end up with these beautiful effects. Let's make some marbled paper. To create marbled paper, you're going to need white cardstock, shaving cream, a shallow tray, paint or liquid watercolor or food coloring, popsicle sticks, and a plastic ruler to scrape off the excess shaving cream. The first thing you're going to do is spread a thin layer of shaving cream into your shallow pan. Then you're going to add some drops of paint or food coloring. Then you're going to use your popsicle stick or the end of a paintbrush to swirl the colors around and make beautiful designs. Then you're going to take your piece of cardstock and push it face down into the shaving cream mixture. Peel the paper back and take a ruler to scrape off the excess shaving cream. You're going to let the paper dry for a few minutes. At the end, you're left with these beautiful works of art that are great for special occasions, like making cards, framed artwork, or gifts for parents. Here is a great project for school-agers: creating clay worlds. Provide your students with a shoebox and some slow-dry clay or plasticine. Encourage them to design their own world using the clay. They can make people, they can make houses, they can make environments, they can make fictional or non-fictional characters. Make sure you include loose parts for them to use, like toothpicks, googly eyes, buttons, and foam shapes. Every day they can come back into the program and they can add something new to their world. This next activity is a great way to reuse recycled materials. If you have some old CDs that you're not using, they are amazing for making scratch CD art. Step 1 is to paint the silver part of your CD with black acrylic paint and let that dry. Once it's dry, you can use a sharp object to etch out designs into the silver part of the CD. They look really beautiful, and it would be something beautiful to hang in your window as a sun catcher. Our last activity for this workshop is going to be rolled paper art. I actually learned this technique in my high school art class, and I was really intrigued by it because it's not something that you see very often. For this activity, you're going to need construction paper, scissors, glue, and tape. To create rolled paper art, your students are going to cut 1-inch strips of paper first. Then they are going to tightly roll them into bundles and glue them standing up onto paper. It's a really great fine motor activity for your students. And when they're all finished, they look awesome. Lastly, I just want to share some other great resources with you. If you are an educator in Ontario, consider joining these great Facebook groups: Workshops for Educators Ontario, Ottawa ECE Workshops, and School Board ECEs Ontario. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our video. We really appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to hear about our other workshops, please head to our website. Thanks for watching, and we hope to hear from you soon.